Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Pascal had been watching Sidwell for days, studying his movements, his impatience, and the careless way he believed he owned every room he stepped into. The dim warehouse at the edge of Port Charles was silent except for the faint hum of a generator, a slow and steady mechanical heartbeat vibrating through the concrete floor. Pascal pressed his back against a stack of crates, breathing slow and controlled, waiting for Sidwell to arrive. The tension felt like a wet cloth wrapped tightly around his throat, suffocating, but he didn't let it show. Tonight wasn't about nerves. Tonight was about opportunity and survival. Sidwell entered with the confidence of a man who thought he'd already won. His expensive shoes tapped sharply against the cold cement as he scanned the shadows. "I know you're here," he called out, irritation coloring his tone. "Let's stop pretending this is a game." Pascal didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, he waited until Sidwell stepped far enough into the space that the exit was no longer within arm's reach. When the timing was perfect, Pascal stepped forward, the metal pipe in his hand catching the faint glimmer of the overhead bulb. Sidwell barely had time to turn before Pascal swung hard, connecting with Sidwell's arm and knocking the gun from his hand. The clatter of metal hitting the floor echoed like a warning shot. Sidwell cursed, grabbing his forearm. "What the hell? You should have stayed away from my family," Pascal said, voice low and steady as he approached. Sidwell backed up, eyes darting around for the gun. "You think you're some kind of hero?" "No," Pascal replied. "But I'm the one standing between you and the people you want to hurt." Sidwell lunged suddenly, catching Pascal off guard, tackling him into a pile of crates. Wood splintered as they hit the ground, and for several seconds the two men grappled, fists striking bone, elbows digging into ribs, bodies struggling for dominance. Pascal felt Sidwell's knee press into his stomach, squeezing the air from his lungs, but he refused to let go. He grabbed Sidwell's jacket collar and slammed his head backward into the concrete floor. Sidwell groaned, dazed. Pascal rolled away, grabbing the metal pipe again. Sidwell coughed, wiping blood from his mouth, and gasped. "You're making a big mistake." "The only mistake," Pascal growled, "was letting you walk around thinking you could terrorize people without consequences." Sidwell kicked out, knocking Pascal's legs from under him. Both men scrambled, practically crawling across the floor in a desperate race to reach the gun. Sidwell's fingers brushed the handle first. Pascal saw it happen in slow motion, the way Sidwell's entire demeanor shifted into triumph. He lifted the gun, chest heaving, and pointed it straight at Pascal's forehead. "Get up," Sidwell snapped. "Nice and slow." Pascal glared at him, breath still ragged. "You're not going to shoot me." "Oh, I absolutely am," Sidwell said, lips curling. "Not because I want to. Because I have to. You've made yourself a liability." Pascal rose halfway, keeping his hand slightly raised. His eyes flickered toward the warehouse door, a detail so small most wouldn't notice, but Sidwell noticed everything. "Don't you dare," Sidwell barked. "You're not stalling." The sound of footsteps outside the warehouse made Sidwell tighten his grip. "Who's that?" he hissed. "Someone who doesn't deserve what you're planning," Pascal answered. The door creaked open and Lucas stepped inside cautiously, brow furrowed. He'd received a cryptic message from Pascal asking him to come. Something about danger, something about truth. He had assumed there would be tension, maybe an argument. He hadn't expected this. "Pascal," Lucas called out. "What's going on?" Lucas froze when he spotted Sidwell holding a gun directly at Pascal's chest. "Hey, put that down." Sidwell shifted his stance, angling himself so he could keep both men in sight. "Dr. Lucas Jones," Sidwell said with a slow, chilling smile. "You walk into the wrong place at the wrong time." Lucas raised his hands. "Sidwell, listen. Whatever this is, it doesn't have to go any further." "It already has," Sidwell snapped. "Your friend here made that decision for all of us." Pascal shouted. "Lucas, get out. Now." "I'm not leaving you," Lucas insisted. "Just everyone calm down." Sidwell laughed darkly, loud enough to echo through the empty warehouse. "Calm down? You're kidding, right? The only way this ends is with one of you in the ground." Pascal lunged, attempting to knock Sidwell's arm aside, but Sidwell anticipated it. He pivoted, grabbing Pascal by the shirt and shoving him back. "Don't," Sidwell warned. "You'll make me do things I won't lose sleep over." Lucas swallowed hard, slowly moving closer. "Sidwell, you're panicking. And people make terrible decisions when they panic." Sidwell's eyes sharpened. "Don't psychoanalyze me, doctor." Lucas held his ground. "You think killing Pascal is going to solve your problem? It won't. Whatever you're running from, whatever you're trying to cover up, it doesn't end with a bullet." Sidwell's jaw clenched. "You don't know anything." "Then tell me," Lucas urged softly. "Tell me what's pushing you to this point." Pascal tried to inch toward Sidwell again, but Sidwell swung the gun toward him instantly. "Move again," Sidwell hissed, "and I'll shoot him instead of you." Lucas flinched when the gun barrel aimed at him. Pascal's heart nearly stopped. "Don't you touch him," Pascal roared. Sidwell laughed, enjoying the reaction. "So that's it? He's important to you." Sidwell tilted his head, studying Lucas as if he were a chess piece he could easily eliminate. "Funny. People like you always get dragged into messes you're too soft to survive." Lucas steadied his breath. "If you shoot me," he said quietly, "you'll never walk out of here." Sidwell barked another laugh. "Oh, I think I will." Before Pascal could react, Sidwell moved with lightning speed. He grabbed Lucas by the collar, dragging him forward and pressing the gun underneath Lucas's jaw. Lucas gasped at the sudden cold metal forcing his head upward. Pascal's voice cracked. "Sidwell, don't do this." Lucas whispered. "Pascal, stay back." Sidwell shoved Lucas harder. "You want to be a hero, Pascal?" Sidwell taunted. "Try saving him." Pascal felt the panic rise like fire in his chest. "Let him go." "No," Sidwell answered calmly. "But I'll give you a choice." Lucas struggled to speak as Sidwell's grip tightened. "Don't listen to him," Sidwell continued. "Either you drop the pipe or I blow Lucas's head off." Pascal slowly bent, keeping Sidwell's eyes on him. He set the pipe on the ground, hands trembling. "Okay. It's down. Kick it away," Sidwell demanded. Pascal nudged it across the floor with his foot. Sidwell smirked. "Good. Now this conversation has balance again." Lucas's voice was strained. "Sidwell, please, you don't have to do this." Sidwell shoved Lucas to the floor abruptly, causing him to land hard on his side, gasping from the impact. Pascal instinctively moved toward him. "Stop!" Sidwell barked, raising the gun again. Pascal froze. Lucas tried pushing himself up on an elbow, wincing. "Let Pascal go," he whispered. "Take me. Whatever you're trying to fix. I can help you if you just lower the gun." Sidwell sneered. "Help? You can't help me. You can't even help yourself." Lucas was breathing fast, fear creeping but not fully consuming him. "Then walk away," he said. "Walk out that door. No one else has to get hurt." Sidwell's hand tightened around the weapon. The decision was written all over his expression, the desperation, the cornered animal resolve, the warped belief that violence would give him control. Pascal stepped forward slightly, every muscle tense. "Sidwell, don't you do it. Don't you dare aim that gun at him." Sidwell turned the barrel directly toward Lucas, who stared at the weapon, eyes wide but unflinching. "Sidwell," Lucas said quietly, voice trembling but steady, "think about what comes next." "I already have," Sidwell whispered. Then Sidwell exhaled, raising the gun fully, finger tightening around the trigger. Pascal screamed, "Lucas, move!" Lucas threw himself sideways as Sidwell pulled the trigger. The shot exploded through the air, deafening, echoing off the warehouse walls like thunder. Everything after that moment happened in a blur. The scattering sound of the bullet ricocheting, the clatter of metal as Sidwell chambered another round, Pascal diving forward with a roar, Lucas scrambling desperately across the cold concrete, Sidwell turning, aiming again. But the sound of that first shot hung in the air like a storm cloud threatening to descend. Whether the bullet had hit Lucas, none of them knew yet. But Sidwell wasn't done. And Pascal wasn't going to let him fire again. The air in Port Charles, thick with the usual undercurrents of deception and desire, seemed to solidify into something cold and sharp in the dimly lit corridor of General Hospital. It was a silence that wasn't empty but full, pregnant with the echo of a slammed door, a muffled sob from a nearby room, and the ticking of a clock counting down to something inevitable. In this sterile maze of healing and hurting, two figures moved on a collision course paved with betrayal, each step fueled by a poison unique to their own suffering. The events that would later be summarized in a breathless burst of online prophecy. Pascal attacks Sidwell, before Sidwell aims at Lucas and pulls the trigger. Were not a sudden explosion, but the final violent tremor of a seismic shift that had been building for months, even years, beneath the polished floors of the hospital. To understand the attack, one must first understand the architect of its first brutal phase, Pascal. He was not a man given to grand outbursts. His violence was a calculated surgical instrument. A respected surgeon with a past woven through shadowy organizations and personal loss so profound it had hollowed him out, leaving only a shell of precision and cold intent. His connection to Lucas Jones, the beloved chief of staff, was complex. A tangled web of obligation, hidden loyalties, and a protective instinct that bordered on the obsessive. Pascal had seen the darkness in Port Charles firsthand, had lost those he cared to it, and in Lucas, he saw both a vulnerability and a goodness he felt compelled to shield, even from itself. Lucas's recent troubles, the strain on his marriage to Dr. Bobby Spencer, the professional pressures, the whispers of a relapse into old demons, had not gone unnoticed by Pascal's watchful, haunted eyes. And then there was Sidwell. Alistair Sidwell had arrived in Port Charles not with a bang, but with the quiet, insidious creep of a stain. A venture capitalist with a smile that never reached his cold, assessing eyes, he represented a new kind of threat. Not mob violence or mad science, but corporate predation. He saw the hospital not as a sanctuary but as a portfolio asset, and its staff and patients as liabilities or leverage. His focus had settled on Lucas, recognizing in the chief's inherent decency and occasional instability a perfect point of entry. Sidwell's methods were legal, bureaucratic, and utterly ruthless. He'd been circling using financial pressure, boardroom manipulations, and subtle blackmail to undermine Lucas, aiming to either force him out or bend him to his will, acquiring the hospital's integrity as just another transaction. The fuse was lit not in a boardroom, but in the one place Pascal considered a sacred ground, the operating theater. Sidwell, leveraging his growing influence, had forced through a series of cost-cutting measures that directly impacted surgical protocols. Supplies Pascal had specified were substituted for inferior brands. Staffing on critical procedures was cut to the bone. Pascal, a man for whom medicine was a sacred craft, saw this not just as incompetence but as sacrilege. A near miss during a complex procedure, caused by a faulty piece of equipment Sidwell's policies had introduced, was the catalyst. The patient, stabilized by Pascal's sheer skill and nerve, survived, but the rage within Pascal did not. It crystallized from a simmering disgust into a clear, cold purpose. Sidwell was not just an enemy to the hospital, but an active killer in a tailored suit, and he needed to be stopped. Pascal's surveillance of Sidwell was methodical. He learned the man's routines, his penchant for late-night walkthroughs of the hospital to instill a sense of his omnipresent authority. He knew Sidwell favored the quiet of the administrative wing after hours, a place where he could scheme without witnesses. Pascal chose his moment with the care of planning a delicate operation. It was past midnight, the corridors hushed, illuminated only by the ghostly glow of exit signs and the occasional pool of light from a cleaning cart. Sidwell was alone, reviewing a file outside a vacant conference room, a slight, smug smile on his lips as he contemplated another chess move against Lucas. The attack was not a brawl. It was an ambush. Pascal moved from a shadowed alcove with a silence that was terrifying. There were no words, no dramatic pronouncements. This was not about discourse. His first hand clamped over Sidwell's mouth, stifling any cry. The second drove a precisely aimed fist into Sidwell's kidney, dropping him to his knees with a choked gasp of agony. Pascal dragged him into the empty conference room, the door clicking shut with a sound of finality. What followed was a brutal, efficient interrogation. Pascal's questions, hissed through gritted teeth, were about contracts, backroom deals, and the specific threats to Lucas. With each evasive, wheezing answer from Sidwell, Pascal applied more pressure. A twist of the arm, a knee to the ribs, not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to translate corporate malice into visceral, undeniable pain. "You think your money and your papers protect you," Pascal whispered, his voice devoid of all warmth, close to Sidwell's ear. "In these walls they are nothing. You are a disease in this hospital, and I am the cure." Sidwell, though terrified and in pain, was not broken. His fear mutated into a feral, cornered animal hatred. He saw in Pascal's eyes the very thing he could weaponize, an irrational, violent loyalty to Lucas. As Pascal delivered a final, contemptuous shove that left him sprawled on the cold linoleum, Sidwell's mind was already racing past the pain, past the humiliation, toward retaliation. He would not go to the police. That was too mundane, too uncertain. He would orchestrate a downfall far more exquisite and damning. He would make Lucas Jones the instrument of his own destruction, and in doing so, destroy Pascal's purpose utterly. Bruised and seething, Sidwell retreated to his penthouse lair. The physical pain was a constant, throbbing reminder, but it was the psychic wound to his ego that truly festered. Pascal had reduced him to a body, to weakness. In Sidwell's world, that was the ultimate sin. His plan formed with chilling clarity. He would accelerate his campaign against Lucas, but twist it. Using the leverage he'd already gathered, a potential lapse in judgment Lucas had confided in a moment of weakness, financial discrepancies Sidwell had manufactured, whispers of Lucas's past struggles with addiction. He would back Lucas into a corner so tight that only one escape would seem possible: violence. Sidwell would become the provoker, the taunter, pushing Lucas to the very brink of his sanity. He would make Lucas believe that eliminating Sidwell was the only way to save his career, his marriage, his very identity. The stage was set in the days that followed. Sidwell's public attacks on Lucas became more personal, more vicious. He called emergency board meetings to question Lucas's competence, citing erratic behavior. He planted seeds of doubt with key donors, suggesting Lucas was unfit for leadership. In private, his encounters with Lucas were masterclasses in psychological torture. He would corner Lucas in his own office, smiling that thin, cold smile. "I know about the missing narcotics log from last month, Lucas," he'd say softly. "And I know why you were in the pharmacy so late that night. Your history makes such things so easy to believe, doesn't it? Even if it's not true this time." He'd dangle threats against Bobby's position, against the funding for the free clinic that was Lucas's passion project. He created a world where, for Lucas, every door was slamming shut, and Alistair Sidwell held the only key, which he dangled just out of reach with a mocking grin. Lucas, a man who fought his demons daily, began to fray. The pressure was immense. He saw the concern in Bobby's eyes turning to doubt, the respect in his colleagues' eyes wavering. He felt the walls closing in. Pascal, observing this, grew more frantic. He tried to warn Lucas, to tell him Sidwell was a snake to be avoided, not engaged. But Lucas, pushed to his limit, started to see Pascal's protectiveness as another form of pressure, a reminder of his own perceived fragility. A rift opened between them, just as Sidwell had hoped. The crisis point arrived on a rain-lashed Tuesday night. Sidwell had just successfully manipulated the board into voting for a mandatory fitness for duty evaluation for Lucas, a staggering public humiliation. He found Lucas alone in the hospital's abandoned chapel, a place Lucas went to seek solace. Sidwell couldn't resist the opportunity for a final, crushing victory lap. "Seeking forgiveness, Lucas?" Sidwell's voice echoed in the quiet space. "A little late for that. The evaluation will be thorough. They'll go through everything. Your past, your present. Bobby will have to testify to your state of mind. Imagine that." Lucas, his face pale with strain and fury, turned. "Get out. Or what?" Sidwell took a step closer, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You'll hit me? Like your attack dog Pascal did? Is that how the Jones men solve their problems? With their fists? Or perhaps with a bottle?" He let the reference to Lucas's sobriety hang in the air, toxic and cruel. "You're a weak man, Lucas. You always have been. And by this time next week, everyone in Port Charles will know it. Your career will be ash. Bobby will leave you. And you'll have nothing. Because of me." Something in Lucas snapped. The torrent of fears, the sleepless nights, the look of pity in everyone's eyes. It all coalesced into a white-hot roar of desperation. He wasn't thinking of the hospital, his career, or even Bobby in that moment. He was thinking of silence, of making the mocking voice, the source of all this agony, stop. Forever. His eyes fell on a heavy old brass candlestick on the altar. It was a movement born of pure, unthinking instinct. As Sidwell turned to leave, savoring his triumph, Lucas's hand closed around the cold metal. Outside, in the storm, Pascal's own surveillance had led him to the chapel. A gnawing dread had filled him since he'd heard of the board's decision. He knew Sidwell would come to gloat. He arrived at the chapel doors just in time to see, through the crack, the tail end of Sidwell's verbal evisceration and Lucas's hand closing on the candlestick. Pascal's blood ran cold. This was exactly what Sidwell wanted. He was about to burst in to stop it, but he was a fraction of a second too late. Sidwell, sensing the shift in the room, turned back. He saw the candlestick in Lucas's hand, saw the wild, broken look in his eyes. And in that moment, Alistair Sidwell made his final, fatal calculation. He would not run. He would not call for help. He would become the victim, and in doing so, cement Lucas's damnation and by extension, Pascal's failure. A strange, triumphant light glinted in his own eyes. "Go ahead," Sidwell hissed, taking a step toward Lucas, not away. "Do it. Prove me right. Prove you're exactly the unstable addict, the violent failure I've told everyone you are. Pull the trigger, Lucas." The phrase "pull the trigger" hung in the sanctified air. A blasphemy. It was a challenge, a dare, a final twisted manipulation. He was aiming not just to survive but to win completely by making Lucas annihilate himself. Lucas, trembling, the weight of the metal and the weight of his crumbling world unbearable, raised the candlestick. His vision tunneled. There was only Sidwell's sneering face. The world narrowed to that single terrible action. Pascal from the doorway saw it all unfold. He saw the aim. He saw the trigger of intent about to be pulled. And in that splinter of time, he understood the horrifying genius of Sidwell's plan. To save Lucas, he had to stop him. But to stop him now would be to let Sidwell win another way. There was no right move, only a series of catastrophic losses. The candlestick began its descent. What happened next would be dissected by the Port Charles police for weeks. The scene in the chapel was one of stark, shocking violence. Alistair Sidwell was found on the floor. A deep, fatal wound to his head. The heavy brass candlestick lay nearby, slick with fingerprints. Lucas Jones was found kneeling beside the body, covered in blood, in a state of profound shock, muttering incoherently. But the spoilers, the whispers, the shocking truth that would ripple through the town like a shockwave, pointed to a more complex truth. The trajectory of the blow, the positioning of the bodies, the forensic evidence that didn't quite add up, it all suggested a third actor. Pascal, who had vanished from the scene, became the ghost in the machine. Had Lucas, in his anguish, truly pulled the trigger and struck the killing blow? Or had Pascal, in a last, desperate bid to save Lucas from becoming a murderer, intervened in the final nanosecond, perhaps grappling with Lucas, causing the blow to land with unintended force, or even taking the weapon and finishing what he believed Lucas was destined to do, absorbing the sin to spare his friend? Or had Sidwell, in a last grotesque act of control, somehow orchestrated his own death to frame Lucas? The possibilities were dark and tangled. The aftermath was a quiet chaos. The hospital, already a place of drama, was now the scene of a major crime. Lucas, arrested and broken, sat in a holding cell, his memory of the event a blur of rage, rain, and blood. Bobby Spencer moved through a nightmare, her heart torn between her husband and the horrifying evidence. The police, led by Detective Dante Falconeri, pieced together a puzzle where the most obvious picture felt wrong. And Pascal was gone. But his presence lingered. He had attacked Sidwell to protect Lucas, setting in motion a chain of events that led Sidwell to target Lucas with even more diabolical precision. In trying to shield Lucas from a corporate predator, he may have inadvertently driven him into the path of a moral abyss, and perhaps in the final moment, had to make an impossible choice that would haunt them all. The spoiler: Pascal attacks Sidwell, before Sidwell aims at Lucas and pulls the trigger, was thus revealed to be not just a sequence of events, but a profound meditation on cause, effect, and the corrosive nature of revenge. Sidwell's aim was psychological, his trigger the manipulation of a man's deepest fears. Lucas's pull was one of desperate, broken agency. And Pascal's initial attack was the catalyst for a tragedy that spiraled far beyond his control. In the echoing silence of the chapel, and in the frantic whispers that would fill the halls of General Hospital for days to come, the line between attacker and victim, between savior and destroyer, was forever blurred, leaving a stain on the soul of Port Charles that no amount of antiseptic could ever clean. The ringing in Lucas's ears drowned out everything for several seconds. The sound of the gunshot had blasted the world into a muted hum, and he couldn't tell whether the burning sensation across his shoulder was real or imagined. He gasped as he slid across the floor, his hand instinctively flying to the spot where the force of something, maybe the bullet, had grazed him. His fingers came away warm, damp, sticky. Blood. But not fatal. Not yet. Pascal saw the smear of red and nearly lost his mind. "Lucas!" he shouted, his voice cracking through the echo. He reached him in a full sprint, dropping to his knees beside him. "Talk to me. Lucas, say something." Lucas winced, teeth gritted. I'm okay. It's just a graze." Sidwell smirked from several feet away, the gun raised again. "Trust me," he said coldly. "The second shot won't miss." Pascal lunged on instinct, grabbing Lucas by the arm and yanking him behind a crate as Sidwell opened fire a second time. The bullet struck the wooden crate, splintering it into fragments that flew past Pascal's face. He shielded Lucas with his entire body, the way someone might shield a child from falling debris. Lucas whispered urgently, "He's lost it, Pascal. He's completely lost it." "No," Pascal growled, peering over the edge of the crate. "He hasn't lost it. This is exactly who he is." Sidwell's voice echoed through the warehouse. "You can't hide forever. I'm going to finish this. One way or another." Lucas struggled to sit up, wincing as the movement tugged at the wound on his shoulder. His breath hitched. "Pascal, you need to stop him." "I'm not leaving you," Pascal insisted sharply. "Not a chance." Lucas grabbed Pascal's wrist with his uninjured hand, forcing him to look at him. "If he kills you," Lucas said quietly, "he'll kill me next. So you have to stop him. Whatever it takes." Pascal's throat tightened. "I'm not letting him near you." Sidwell's footsteps began moving, echoing through the warehouse like a predator stalking its prey. "You boys done whispering back there?" he taunted. "Or are you planning your funerals together?" Pascal's eyes scanned the floor desperately for anything he could use, anything with weight or reach or force. The metal pipe was too far. The broken crate offered nothing but splinters. He clenched his jaw. Lucas whispered, "Pascal, there's something behind you." Pascal turned slightly and spotted a loose wooden plank leaning against the wall, thick, heavy, jagged at the edges. He grabbed it instantly, gripping it like a makeshift weapon. Sidwell paused somewhere in the shadows, and Pascal could feel the tension thickening in the air, the same way the air feels just before lightning strikes. "Come out," Sidwell shouted, "or I'll drag you out." Pascal turned back to Lucas. "Stay low. Don't move. And if he comes near you, scream." Lucas nodded, face pale but determined. "Just don't get shot, Pascal." Pascal exhaled once, then launched himself from behind the crate. He saw Sidwell instantly, standing by a towering stack of boxes, gun raised toward the direction Pascal had been hiding. But Pascal moved faster than Sidwell expected. Swinging the wooden plank in a wide arc, Sidwell jerked his head back, barely dodging the swing. The plank smashed into the metal shelving, rattling the entire structure like an earthquake. Sidwell stumbled backward. "You stupid!" Sidwell fired again, the bullet whizzing inches from Pascal's face and embedding itself into the wall. Lucas flinched at the sound. "Pascal!" Pascal didn't stop. He swung again, this time clipping Sidwell's shoulder, knocking him off balance. Sidwell's grip on the gun faltered for a split second, but a second was all Pascal needed. He kicked Sidwell square in the stomach, sending him tumbling onto his back. The gun skittered across the floor. Pascal dove for it. Sidwell grabbed Pascal's ankle, yanking hard. Pascal hit the ground with a grunt. The plank clattered away from his hand. Sidwell dragged himself up, panting, fury blazing across his features. "You just don't quit, do you?" Pascal kicked free of Sidwell's grip and crawled toward the gun, fingers outstretched. Sidwell lunged toward him at the same time. Their hands hit the weapon simultaneously. For a moment the two men froze, both clutching the gun, both wrestling for control. "Let go," Sidwell snarled, face inches from Pascal's. "You first," Pascal spat back. Sidwell twisted the gun violently, trying to angle the barrel toward Pascal's chest. Pascal fought back, using every ounce of strength to keep Sidwell from gaining the advantage. Their bodies shifted, legs tangling, elbows digging in, grunts filling the air. Lucas, still bleeding slightly from the shoulder, forced himself to his knees. His vision swayed. His breathing trembled. But he saw the struggle and knew he couldn't just sit and watch. He crawled toward them. Pascal saw him out of the corner of his eye. "Lucas, stay back." Lucas ignored him, jaw set. "You can't do this alone." Sidwell laughed through his teeth as he strained for control of the gun. "Oh yes he can," Sidwell hissed. "Because when I'm done with him, you're next." Lucas grabbed the nearest object, a loose brick from a broken wall, and held it tightly in his hand. Sidwell shoved Pascal, slamming him onto his back and climbing on top of him. He pushed the barrel downward, forcing it closer to Pascal's chest. "I told you," Sidwell said, breath hot with adrenaline. "You made yourself a liability." Pascal's muscles trembled as he tried to hold the gun away. He could feel the cold metal pressing lower inch by inch. Lucas shouted, "Pascal!" Lucas swung the brick with everything he had left, smashing it against Sidwell's arm. Sidwell screamed as the bone cracked. The gun flew from his hand. Pascal shoved Sidwell off him and rolled aside. Lucas dropped the brick, his hand shaking violently, horror settling into his expression. I didn't mean," Lucas stammered. Pascal rushed over, grabbing Lucas's face gently. "Lucas, look at me. You did exactly what you needed to do." Sidwell writhed on the floor, clutching his broken arm.